Thursday, Central Indiana Sports Central. I talked with our Pacers guy, Mike Rich, about the Rick Carlisle contract extension and them now turning their attention to Aaron Neesmith and Andrew Nembhard. I also spoke with John Robertson about the latest in the bad rash of injuries for the Indiana Fever, including maybe a setback for Caitlin Clark. I also spoke with our IndyCar guy Elijah Poe about the upcoming race in Milwaukee and the most recent IndyCar news. And I spoke with a busy Michelle Garmon about her Wednesday covering Tipton Madison-Grant tennis. Please join us every morning for roundup of what's going on in Central Indiana sports.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am your host of Central Indiana Sports Central and the host of the Central Indiana Sports Report, Greg Mengelt, here on the morning of Thursday, August 21st. Here to give you a little Pacers fever, IndyCar, and high school tennis news, along with 10 minutes of Greg and Mike in the morning. We start Thursday's Indiana Sports Central with some Indiana Pacers news and our guy Mike Rich. Joining me now is our Pacers guy Mike Rich, who is back in Indiana from Green Bay, where he went and said hello to Curly and Vince, which is required if you're a sports fan and you are in Green Bay. While you were gone, Mike, the Pacers signed Rick Carlisle to a long-term deal, and I remember talking when they hired him, and I said, why did they hire a has-been? And now I'm excited he's getting another contract.
I'm excited he got another contract. I think 4 years, $29 million is what his current contract is, and to get an extension, to turn that team around, 2 years to rebuild and be where we were last year and this year, a 4-year turnaround in that contract. He was well worth being extended.
Now that Rick Carlisle has been taken care of, and rightfully so, they now turn their attention to Aaron Neesmith and Andrew Nembhard, who we know they want to sign, and perhaps Benedict Mathurin, who I think is going to be playing for a contract this year. What should their priorities be?
I think their number one priority should be Andrew Nembhard. And then I've always been a Mathurin fan. I'd love to see him have Mathurin, but I think if he plays really well this year, I think he would be a good bargaining chip for the future as well. If we had to sign and trade or something like that. So if I had to pick three of the two and be fiscally responsible for it, I would say Nembhard and Neesmith. You can't go wrong there. I think Neesmith really... They do. They just fit in with what Carlisle's trying to do. And I think Carlisle will continue to develop both Nembhard's game and Neesmith. I think Neesmith's got more growing to do, but I think Mathurin would be a little more challenging to tackle to fit into the chemistry of the team that we have right now. Because I think he wants to be the primary scorer. And for this year, that's going to be great. And I think we could potentially see a really good season out of Benedict Mathurin. And it's going to make it difficult at the end of the year if they're going to want to continue to stay with that and keep him with Siakam and Halliburton and Nembhard in the future. So, but if I had to pick two of the three, I would say Neesmith and Nembhard.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Mathurin is going to be interesting because right now here he hasn't even played a minute this season, but he's trying to talk, and his people want $30 million a year, and he's not proven to be worth $30 million a year yet. Not consistently. So it's going to be interesting if they think they're close to re-signing Neesmith and Nembhard. They may trade Mathurin this season, during the season, before the trade deadline,
for sure.
Because they may need a piece or something, and he may be pivotal, because we all know every year there are teams that want somebody to make that push for the NBA championship or the finals, and
Everybody check out the Pacers report with Mike Rich. It might be a week or two before we do another one, but we just had one recently, so go and check that out. Thank you so much, Mike. Welcome, John Robertson, our Fever guy, to Central Indiana Sports Central to talk a little Fever. And John, it's been 5 days since the Fever played. We expected for you to be taking some time off as our correspondent, and it's been nothing but news ever since then. And now we have some, I guess, setback for Caitlin.
The report I saw said that Caitlin got a bone bruise at practice in Phoenix, but it shouldn't affect her timetable for return. That's the official statement. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like that's definitely going to set back the timetable for her return.
Unless her return wasn't set for a while.
That's fair if they're not saying what they're kind of saying.
Exactly.
I want Caitlin to be healthy. I don't want another Tyrese Halliburton situation where we're out for a full season again after this, right?
Yeah.
As a gambling person, I think my strategy for this scenario is you play the next few games. They're still in the playoffs based on the standings. So I think you play the games without Caitlin, see how it goes. If you're still in the playoffs, keep working her back for return. If it doesn't look like it's going to happen anyway, let her rest and heal and then play next season. And I hate to say that as a Fever fan, but I honestly think that might be the best strategy.
Fever are back in action Friday and Sunday against the Minnesota Lynx, and it looks like no Nafisa Collier either.
That's a benefit for the Fever. I still don't know that they have the firepower with all the injuries, without Aerie, without Sophie. I mean, Sid is a loss, right? But I don't know if it's as an impactful loss as the other ones. But I just don't know that they have it.
The fact that her injury piled on the others is what's so damaging.
Oh, absolutely. And as I hate to say it, Dejanay Carrington's been a good pickup for the Lynx. She's been impactful for their games, and she's been helping fill the role she needs to fill. So I still think the Lynx are doing really well. I still think between them and New York, they're the favorites to win the whole thing at this point.
So splitting this weekend would be a success.
Yeah, I'd take 50-50 this weekend.
John Robertson, thanks so much. Yesterday, John and Michelle, his partner on the Fever Report, and Sam Frick and Mike Hutzel and I talked about the injury to Sophie Cunningham, and John teased a conspiracy theory coming Saturday on the regularly scheduled Fever Report. Thanks so much, John, for your time. Always appreciate it.
My pleasure. See you later.
I am joined now by Elijah Poe. Elijah is our IndyCar guy, and Elijah and I just recorded our IndyCar report we released last night. If you have not listened to it yet, go back and listen to it. It's a good one. Really good conversation every time we talk, Elijah. But Milwaukee is on Sunday. What are the top stories heading into that race?
Well, we're definitely going in again with another week coming off a Will Power win. We're definitely looking at that Team Penske storyline. We're not sure if Will Power is going to be signed to Team Penske in 2026 with David Malukas kind of in the shadows. And I'm also super interested to see where those Andretti's are able to kind of salvage their end of the season. They've had a really rough stretch of the second half. To see them maybe get some points as we close out 2026 would be big with only two races left on the calendar.
And on an oval, you would think that Andretti will be very competitive.
Yeah, and they need it. They've had a really bad stretch of races. Kyle Kirkwood's pretty much been nowhere. Colton Herta has been in the mix a few times, but has been inconsistent in races. And same with Marcus Ericsson, who's just had a really up and down year as a whole.
Speaking of Marcus Armstrong has signed a deal through 2026 to race another season for Meyer Shank. Big news for Meyer Shank. I think that's a big deal for them. Having Marcus Armstrong, the young New Zealander, and Felix Rosenqvist, the young Swede, is a really good sign for that young team.
I said this in the podcast, but I really do believe it is one of the best driver lineups on the grid. Felix Rosenquist, who's had a lot of experience in IndyCar, and you have Marcus Armstrong, who's still really getting his ropes in IndyCar. Both are very fast. Both are very great racers. And this Meyer Shank organization as a whole has really been on the up in 2025. And I'll be really interested to see where they can end up in 2026 because these cars look very competitive. And I mean, both drivers are in the top 10 of the championship. That is, given Meyer Shank Racing their flowers, they deserve it.
Elijah, we also heard a rumor that I think is pretty well founded in the facts. Young Norwegian driver Dennis Hauger, we believe, has a intended relationship with Andretti, and the rumor is that he will be the next driver at Humco Hollinger, which we bring up. Only the reason we would bring up a rumor is that could mean some bad news for the Central Indiana Sports Report's favorite driver, and that's Connor Daly. But you believe that Connor's going to be safe because he's just too good on ovals, right?
I do. If you take away the road and street courses and just look at oval points, Connor Daly is seventh overall, which is remarkable for that small of a team he's in.
And it would be a lot higher if it wasn't for some bad luck.
Exactly. And, you know, he's really proven himself on ovals these past couple years, and it really feels like this year he's found his stride, and he really has been so aggressive. But he's also a great racer, and any team would be lucky to have him on ovals, that is for sure.
Elijah, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate it. And once again, everybody, listen to the IndyCar report, which is already out. Also, Elijah and I will be previewing the race at Milwaukee on Saturday after qualifying, and then we will be reacting to the race at Milwaukee, which, Elijah, is one of the best of the year.
It is. I'm really excited to see them on a short oval here. You know, not a lot of banking in those corners, so it's pure speed. It should be a great race. It always provides some of the best racing and one of the best markets that IndyCar has all year.
Welcome back to Central Indiana Sports Central. Michelle Garmon, sports editor of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader. We are out at the Elwood Golf Course talking some Pacers, calling football coaches. But earlier today, you had another assignment. The first week of the fall sports season has been a busy one. That's 5 things that you covered in 3 days.
That is correct. 5 things in 3 days.
You had Tipton's 4-1 win over Madison-Grant and boys tennis, their first win over the Argyles in a while.
Yes, and it was a good win for Tipton, and they are now 3-1 on the season. Their only loss was in the season opening match. They participated in the Hamilton Heights Husky Invitational, lost to Frankton 3-2, and we'll talk a little bit about Frankton later too because they had a tough 3-2 loss tonight to Pendleton Heights. For Tipton and Madison-Grant, and it was over quickly at number 2 and number 3 singles. Tipton's juniors, Owen Spidell at 2 singles, and then junior Peyton Aller at number 3 singles were 6-0, 6-0 winners. Madison-Grant's win, their lone point was scored by their number 2 doubles team of Eli Chastain and Leo Hood. They defeated Tipton's Jace Fakes and Henry Wallace 6-0, 6-0.
I know both those guys.
Yeah, there was a little bit of Tipton shook up its lineup a little bit because they were missing their senior Isaac Hummerkhaus, number 1 doubles guy. So they took Grant Day, who'd been playing 2 doubles, and moved him up to number 1 doubles with Kurt Gremmel. And Kurt and Grant defeated Madison Grant's Carson Chastain and Aaron Moon 6-3, 6-4. The best match of the night was at number 1 singles, where Tipton's Evan Coe took on Madison Grant's Luke Nelson. Evan won 7-5, 7-5. It was a big win for Coe because he actually trailed 4-1 in that second set, and he came back and won 7-5. The two exchanged some really good and long points. Both gentlemen played really nice tennis at times.
And if you beat a Nelson, no matter which Nelson it is, it's a big win. That's an inside joke. Sorry, people.
That's Greg knows a lot of these guys.
Greg's an Argyle.
Yes. So it was a good night for the Blue Devils.
You mentioned Frankton and Pendleton Heights. Of course, we heard from Frankton. Tell us what we know about that.
What we know about this one is, I don't know how much. I don't think we've talked about Frankton tennis.
Not yet this year.
Yeah. Well, they have a number 2 singles player. We know the name. I'm very familiar with him. And I would imagine he's probably a pretty imposing challenge, and he's got great coverage because he's long. And we are talking about freshman Ashton Robson, the son of Frankton boys basketball coach and athletic director Brent Robson, and both his older brother, Aiden, who just graduated from Anderson University and was a member of the Anderson University men's team, and his sister Addison was they both played tennis at Frankton and both played at number one singles at one time. So Ashton had one of Frankton's 2 points tonight. He won at number two singles, 6-4, lost the second set 7-5 in a tiebreaker. So he lost 7-6, and then he came back to win the superset tiebreak 10-3. Frankton's other point was scored by Josh Hobbs at number 3 singles, and Josh lost his first set in a tiebreaker and lost 8-6 in the tiebreaker, but came back to win the next 2 sets 6-1, 6-3. So I think he just seems like he got in a groove and just went on from there.
Whatever it was, it worked.
Yes, Frankton is now 1-3. The Eagles are young. When you look, none of these guys that are playing the 3 singles, they didn't play singles last year, varsity singles for Frankton. I think maybe Josh Hobbs filled in a couple times, but not what I would say regular. And their number 2 doubles team of Davis Blockson and Jack Feddick is relatively new too. Eli Birch, I believe, played some varsity doubles last year, and Braxton Moore, I think, played some too. So they don't really, they graduated a lot. So I would imagine, I haven't had a chance to talk to Mark lately, but I plan on next week because that's the Madison County tournament. But I would imagine he's got to be kind of pleased with how competitive his young kids have been. You're listening to Gregorio y Miguerico en la mañana.
Thank you, Susie, for that beautiful intro. Mike, very nice. Mike Rich and I were in Spanish class together. And shout out to Senora Tracy. She was married while we were there. Mike is our Pacers guy, of course, and the Pacers are probably his number 1 team, but he's also a big fan of the Colts and a big fan of the Cubs. And so today we are talking some Colts and some Cubs rather than the Pacers, which we already did earlier today. So, Mike, since the Cubs are in the 9th inning and the game isn't over yet, let's start with the Colts and your thoughts on the Daniel Jones-Anthony Richardson decision.
I think that decision was made before preseason even started. I think they were
Seems like it.
intending with going with Danny Dimes when they signed him to that. I don't know what they do with Richardson. I know his agent's throwing all kinds of shade out there against the Colts, and seems pretty frustrated.
Don't blame him.
He felt like that Richardson went in the off season and he worked on the things that he was struggling with. He came back and he was more prepared, and but as much as he could prepare, he still has problems with accuracy. His completion rate was still not where it needs to be. Um, Injury prone. It's. I think it's just him being a 4th overall pick is probably the hardest thing
Of
to swallow.
course. Of
Yeah,
course. As we pointed out in the special Colts report yesterday, when they announced Daniel Jones as the starter, that's the whole thing, is he was the 4th pick overall. They spent the 4th pick on him when guys like Jalen Carter were out there and available. And when you do that, and he's 20 years old at the time, and you say to the media, we're going to be patient with him because we know he's raw, and then they're not patient with him, I don't
yeah,
understand it at all. And maybe he gave them signs that he's not serious about football. Even so, Jamarcus Russell got more of a leash than this. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense.
And I think just it's just a dysfunctional situation for a quarterback to go into with the Indianapolis Colts right now. There's just no process to develop. He really did not get a chance. He was on a very short leash, and it was, and he was immature. I mean, he was 20 years old. He's 23. There are seniors in college that are older than him still. to expect him to come out and to be Andrew Luck or to be Peyton Manning, it's just not going to happen. And
Looks like the Colts are headed for another one.
yeah, awful for Archie. Is that what it is? Or
Awful for Arch. I think there are about 6 franchise quarterbacks, from what I understand, that
yeah,
are
it's a
going to be
good.
available in the next year, and Arch may not even be one of those.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting if the Colts are at the top of the draft next year with Cleveland. Arch Manning
Well,
want to come out. I
as
mean,
I've been saying all along, Mike, Peyton Manning's going to be the team president next year, and he's going to just work it out, right? And he's going to.
I that would be kind of cool. That would definitely be kind of cool.
I've been
I
saying for 2 years that's the plan. I think.
I think that I know Daniel Jones is not the answer. I
No kidding.
I
That's
mean,
what's so disappointing about it is you go to Daniel Jones, and what if they go 11-6, and then you bring him back next year, and it's just hopeless at that point.
it's a wait.
You're sneaking in the playoffs and you're losing. What's the
And
best case scenario with Daniel Jones?
I think 9-8 and miss the
Yeah,
playoffs. I think that's best case, and I think that's just because, and who I feel bad for on this team is people like Quentin Nelson. I mean, just an unbelievable lineman. Jonathan Taylor, fantastic running back. I think they have a good core of wide receivers. They got a great draft pick in their tight end. I think he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL in the next few years. But if you have a quarterback that can throw 10 yards down the field, and I don't think it's Daniel Jones, and I don't think it's Anthony Richardson.
I
Um,
think you're absolutely right. Hey, Mike, it's gone final at Wrigley
it
Field.
has. I just watched it. The bases were loaded, and it was a ground out, and they won 4-3. So yeah, I was watching as we were
I was.
talking about the Colts and kind of a little distracted maybe with some of your questions because I mean, taking 3 of the last 4 against Milwaukee over the last few days that's fantastic. Um, it still doesn't catch them up in the standings too much, but it does
Yeah, it
make.
was trending kind of bad for the Cubs,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and it's been so much better the last week or so.
Yeah, the last week they're finally got a winning record over the last 10 games, and Milwaukee is not winning 14 in a row, and they're 6-4 in the last 10, and Chicago's 6-4. So then Cincinnati's 7-3 in the last 10, so they're not playing bad either. But
I think the Reds are going to make the playoffs. I think they are a good team. I really do. I don't think this is a fluke at all. I've been watching lately.
so
Uh,
you think 3 out of the Central?
I think 3 out of the Central. I do.
That's that
Yeah,
would
I
be
would love to.
awesome,
I don't think the Reds and Cubs have ever played in the postseason, despite the fact that they were in different divisions when we were growing up.
right?
They could have, but neither team. There was never a time when both teams were good. We grew up. The
Right.
Cubs weren't usually very good.
The Cubs were too hot for too long in the beginning of the season, and you knew there was going to be a point where things were going to shift. And
I was starting to think they might be among those elite teams, and now
I,
I'm not sure.
it's that middle relief pitching. They're just still really weak there, and they did not do anything at the trade deadline really to improve their situation. It's going to be it'll be exciting if they make the playoffs, and I mean they have one hell of an offense.
Mike, I assume you feel pretty good about the Cubs making the playoffs. They have a 3-game lead on the Padres in the top wild card spot, and 5.5 over the Mets and 6 over the Reds.
Yeah, I definitely feel pretty comfortable thinking they're going to at least be in the wild card. It'd take a tremendous downfall of Milwaukee to win the division. I don't see that happening. Like Michelle said earlier, I agree. I don't see them taking the division, but
Still,
definitely.
73-54 at this point in the season. They've scored 116 more runs than they've given up. Cubs fans have to be pretty thrilled, and it's been a really nice season for Pete Crow Armstrong.
Yeah, he was struggling a little bit recently, but I think he's coming out of that slump. So, and again, to beat the top team in the league, Milwaukee, the last 3 games, 3 in a row, and that's just fantastic. But this is a team that they lost the series against the damn Pirates the other couple days ago. So that kind of stuff's frustrating. All in all, I'm excited to be a Cubs fan and excited to see them play in the playoffs hopefully this year. And I think they'll
Maybe
get
against the
to
Reds.
I think they'll get to 91, 92 wins this year and be in a good position and being a wild card. I think they got a good shot of possibly coming out of the National League. That would be kind of cool.
Mike, thanks so much for joining
Yep.
Greg and Mike in the morning. Uh,
Yeah.
it's always a lot of fun talking sports with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike and John, Michelle, and Elijah. Do us a huge favor and share this podcast with the sports fan in your life and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Thanks so much. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.